Thomas, you're young, you're starting a new company, 3 months in. Tell me, what is Oxcare and how did you get started?
Of course. Interesting story. Oxcare is the revolution of the revenue cycle management. So, in other words, we're doing insurance paperwork for hospitals. So, very sexy work. We're automating the conversion of a doctor's note into how insurances see it, which is medical codes. And this process is extremely inefficient, super cost intensive, and it's essentially half a trillion, seriously, half a trillion dollar problem in the US at least, that people honestly don't even see. It's a drain on the system, and we're automating it with Oxcare.
Thomas, how do you get into that field? I mean, it's such a, I mean, do you have any kind of insurance background at all,
Yeah,
or did
completely.
you
I woke
just
up one day,
bought
I'm
it?
like, I'm gonna do this. No, no, it's funny. So I am the third person on the team. We're three people. Um, the first two they had met in Oxford, hence the
Sure.
Ox in the name. And one of them I knew from a previous project. He's working in a VC space, Edouard, and he's our finance guy on the team. And I actually reached out to him through 3 years ago for a project that I was doing, another like startup project, where we reached out to him for funding, and he really liked, or he really liked me, and in general, we got along well. And I hadn't heard back from him for another year or two, and then all of a sudden he comes back to me with this idea and this project that he's building, and they need a technical developer and somebody really to fit well with the team. And so he reached out to me, and that's how I got involved. But I also came across the problem of the insurance complexity across the podcast that I also lead, and one of the guests was really involved in the medtech scene and was discussing with me this specific problem a few weeks before I had met or re-met, touched base with Edouard. So it was kind of the stars aligned, and that's how I got involved. I did not come up with this in the first place, but I got on boarded very quick.
Thomas, there's a lot of people that want to get into entrepreneurship and they feel a bit intimidated because it costs a lot in terms of time, in terms of energy, and even money. So you got to be invested. The opportunity cost is there. So my question to you is, how did you know that this was the right fit with your co-founders? How did you know that this was the project to work on? Because I'm sure you've had a lot of great ideas, but how did you know that this is it? I want to spend time and money on that one.
It's very difficult when you have, so I'm someone, maybe you can relate. You almost have too many ideas and plans that you can pursue, potential opportunities, entrepreneurs, or preneurs, but you can't go into all of them because you won't make any progress in any of them. So you have to really pick and choose, and that's all honestly probably one of the hardest parts. I knew that, first of all, entrepreneurship was more or less something I wanted to go into. Firstly, because there's clearly a potential to do so, and people have done it. Now is the time to do it with such a wide access of information, of tools. You can self-learn as you did coding and get yourself a job if you can, which is not something that people could have done already just 10 years ago. So massive opportunity. Also more fun. There's much more flexibility and freedom to it. And I was doing this, I was like flipping clothes on this thing called Carousel. I used to live back in Singapore. I was buying like hoodies and like selling them back. And like it wasn't taking up a lot of time and I didn't make much money, but just the thing of doing something on the side was just fun and just understanding how the world works. And so that's something I enjoyed. So do something you enjoy. If you don't enjoy entrepreneurship or doing something a little risky and going down that route, then it's not for you probably. But for Oxcare itself, I knew it was a fit because the team itself, when I met them, immediately I got really well acquainted with them. We got along, which is not something that happened in some previous projects I had, where the team and I didn't get along. Quite a few actually I had done for a few months and then I'd stop because I did not see myself with them long term. So team is definitely a big aspect.
I mean, that's an interesting topic. Are you the CTO?
Yeah,
Do you consider yourself the CTO?
yeah,
Okay, and you are how many people? Three?
three people.
Okay. So you're 3 months in, three people. And I want to ask you, did you have any disagreements on certain topics? And if you did, do you have some kind of mechanism to talk about things and move on? Because you said it, having the right energy with your co-founders is critical because this is like one of the main reasons why companies fail, is because people have different ideas in mind, different directions. So did this happen, or is the company too young and you're still 100% agreeing on every topic?
No, we actually had an interesting issue at the start. We're actually four. We're supposed to be two technical people, and one of them did not really align with the mission that we had in terms of the go-to-market and how we were approaching clients and what the plan was essentially for growing the company.
Mhm.
And it was essentially us three were more or less aligned on that vision, and this last person wasn't. And so eventually that person just didn't join or continue with the company because it just wasn't feasible for them to continue when the plan was not at all what they would want to go through. And so if it doesn't work, don't force it. Just like go do something else if it's not going to work out. So that's one thing. Um, in terms of us three now and having issues and discussing them, we have like recurring meetings, of course, and touch base all the time. Um, and so we're always more or less aligned on what the next steps are, what the next milestones are. So trying to discuss these before the issues come up is a good way to prevent those issues from coming up in the first place. But no, we haven't had any big issues since. The vision is clear and we just got to execute.
Okay, awesome. So talk to me a bit about what you guys are doing. So you gave me a brief. You're automating a process in a very big industry, which is kind of a dinosaur in the way you described it, because they have old manual processes, but the impact of that industry is gigantic, and the amount of money that flows into it is huge. So the first question is, how do you get in business with these companies? Did you have a certain connection there? Did you just talk to hundreds of them? How do you do it?
It's difficult because, see, that's why I wouldn't be able to lead this myself. Because, first of all, even if I stumbled upon this big problem that can be solved with some development and stuff, how do you actually approach these people and sell it to them? There's so many people in an institution. Do you sell it to doctors? So, what we do to give you a better explanation is we have, again, we're not niching down too much on the solution yet. The problem is more or less what we're going towards, and then we're adapting our solution based on the needs that we'll be encountering. But physicians write a note with their patients. Then they have to send this to the insurance for it to get billed. Except throughout that process, there are two different human teams, one a medical coding team and one an additional check team, human intensive large teams, which essentially check the note and verify that you can actually bill for this. And the insurance is not going to say, okay, well, you don't have supporting documentation, all this stuff. We can't bill you for this. We can't pay you essentially. And so it goes back and forth, except the doctor doesn't know what these coders are talking about because medical codes, which are just like I don't know, for example, PQR.52 or something. That's not an actual code, but see, I'm not from a medical coding background. And so the medical coding guy on our team, or the Yusuf, who is one of the co-founders, has an inside connection to our hospital in the US, University of Wisconsin, and we're working with them for an initial pilot project. And so you have to find the right decision maker. There are specific people that deal with the coding teams. There are the ones that actually will determine whether or not this solution can be tested in the clinic, in the hospital, because then you have the clinic, you have the doctor in the clinic, you also have the hospital organization. So there are many entities. They're actually doing a pilot with one of our competitors, which are not exactly our competitors, but they do something similar. But the thing is, it's in a different department. So you have surgery departments, you have pathology, you have pediatric departments, and all these departments are almost self-isolated. So that gives you an advantage and also some disadvantages, but you can come in and work with specific departments and really validate that solution. So you have to get it into the medical space. You have to have someone that's really well experienced in that space and well connected. This is our CEO, for instance, who connects us with the right people, gets us the right information, and makes sure that really we're aligned with solving a problem that actually exists and not creating one because we thought it was cool.
Thomas, I want to ask you this. I recently talked to someone who exited three companies. I'm not talking about successful exits. I'm talking about in and out
Okay.
every year in different companies because he recognized that that company was not going to work out. And it took him a year every time to just leave the company and start something else. Today, he's a couple of years in the company doing very well. So my question to you is, you're young, you've been in this company for a couple of months, and you sound very excited about it, but it's just in its very beginning. At what point would you say that this is working out, this is not working out, and how far would you be willing to go before saying that, you know what, maybe this wasn't the right choice for me? I know it's a tough question because the whole purpose of the conversation is to say why this is great, but at the same time, we need to be realistic here that most companies eventually fail. So I'm wondering if you had something in your mind where you would be able to reconsider decisions or set a certain benchmark.
Of course. And I think after all, we're all selfish humans, right? So if you come across a better opportunity, there are some factors to consider, of course, but why not go for that, right? So that's kind of the premise as well of the question. And for my scenario, it comes down to we have some initial pre-seed funding that gives us some runway of a couple months. And for these couple months, so the next few months, we'll be essentially deploying a solution, getting in contact with actual users, and then also seeking funding on the other side. Depending on how it goes over those next few months, and by the end of the exhaustion of our funds, pretty much, we'll see how I feel about continuing the project. Um, but yeah, it's difficult to what I envision if it does go out of business for a certain period of time, we essentially run out of money, is that I would love to continue it if I don't have any other opportunities that I want to pursue, but maybe on a part-time basis and try to do a job to sustain it on the side. Because I still believe in furthering that mission, but you have to be realistic. And I think something that comes to mind is being able to play the game again. If I'm able to play this game of entrepreneurship one more time securely and knowing that I can give it a shot with a new opportunity, then that's really the threshold. So if I'm not able to do that again, then I would stop and then start something else, make a bit of cash, and then come back to it maybe once I'm able to play the game. But Naval talks about this, Naval Ravikant, where if you're not able to play the game again and again, kind of shooting your shot at the lottery, then eventually you'll run out. So you have to be cautious of that. But while you are playing the game, then go all in, of course, and give it your best.
Thomas, that's awesome. I mean, just looking at your profile, I mean, I'm going to bring this up again. 21, graduated from one of the best universities in the world, doing a podcast, startup, working. You're doing everything right. Um, People invest in people, and I think that this energy that you're showing today is very promising. I can't wait to see where you will be in a couple of years. Thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate the kind words. Thank you. It was a pleasure.